safety seeks to ensure that while people do their work, go back to their families, because they are the breadwinner of their families. They have their wives, they have their children, they have maybe the dependents, the old parents, the siblings. And if you get injured or you lose your life in the process of doing your work, the lives of all these people is at risk. And what is expected of you is when you go to work, you go back home safely without going back with diseases. For instance, people can have eye injury if there is no proper lighting within the office environment. So if there's no proper lighting and you have eye injury over time, you are unable to read, and as a result, you'll be laid off from work. And even your life has become to you just because you contracted disease within the workplace. So what we are saying is that the management of every organization should ensure that people are able to discharge their duty, at the same time go back home safe and happy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's bring in now Mrs. Basi Akan. What's your take on occupational health and safety?
Okay, thank you very much. When we talk about occupational health and safety, we actually look at 3 basic reasons why we should make sure that we implement good occupational health and safety standards. We have the moral reason, which preventing injury and ill health to workers, we say is the to do as an employer, is the ethical thing you need to do, watching out for your, the people that are coming to make money for your business. So just like my colleagues have said, it's about preventing, because most times the person working is the breadwinner, and if there's anything that happens to him as per having accidents, occupational injuries and all that, he won't be able to fend for the family. Then we also look at the economic reasons. We say accidents and ill health cost money. So you as the employer, the more you are having ill health, your workers are getting ill, you're taking them to the hospital, the medical cost that is involved and all that, it eats into the bottom line of your business. And also, we talk about the social reasons, okay? We need our workers to be healthy. We need, to be safe and sound. Even legal implications, because when you have all these litigations that come against you, having to pay compensations and all that, those are things that eat into the business. So it is very good to make sure that we implement good occupational health and safety standards in our organizations.
All right, Mrs. Akan, thank you very much. Let's go on now to Lagos Network Studios, where we earlier introduced the Reverend Canon Timothy Odaro. What's your take on occupational health and safety in terms of its amplitude and indeed meaning?
Thank you very much. Occupational health means safety in a work environment. It also involves the safety of the workers when they do carry out their job role. It also means safety to the environment where they operate. It also means safety to the tools and equipment that they use. So these 3 must be combined in order to enhance safety in a work environment. For instance, if you have a worker coming to work and the environment is degraded, there's the likelihood of infection coming from that environment. If you have a machine that is not properly fitted, then accident is likely to occur and the machine is likely to be damaged. So all these are not necessary in order for us to carry out our work role. That is why the International Labour Organization insists on 3 levels. 1, the safety of the health of workers and also increasing their working capacity. 2, the environment in which they work must be secured and not degraded as to incorporate infectious diseases. 3, policies must be made by employers towards enhancing workers' safety, such like continuous professional development for the workers, training, and other policies that should be that is coming from employers, so as to enhance worker safety, environment, tools, and equipment.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Obajimi. Now let's go to our guest here in the studio. I was going to ask you. There seemed to be a lot of concern with the manufacturing industry, especially when it comes to safety. What's your take on that?
You're very correct. Like the name goes, the manufacturing industry. In those industries, that's where you have the machineries, you have the chemicals, you have the work environments where it is either safe or unsafe. You know, in the manufacturing industries, that's where you have the bulk of the workforce. You could see some manufacturing industries where you see people, as much as workers of up to 100, 1,000, 2,000 and above. So the focus is more on them because that's where you have the bulk of the people that are involved with physical interaction with the workplace, the work equipment, the machineries, the work environment, the hazards in the workplaces, and the rest of them. So the focus is really, really more on them because that's where you can have people lose their arms because the machine chopped off their hands, chemical spill, name them.
All right, Mr. Ahigbe, thank you very much. There's one point that I would like us to also touch on. What is the level of awareness with regard to occupational safety and health? Mrs. Akan.
Well, occupational safety and health is just beginning to gain much grounds in Nigeria as a country. I know that you know, even most of the courses we even do when it comes to health and safety, we borrow from the UK, from the US, you know, where they have standards that are actually, you know, working, you know, they are being implemented and all that. So in Nigeria, it is just, you know, gaining grounds. And I tell you, the impact is much because so many individuals, NGOs are coming up to speed because, like we're saying, so many people are dying in silence. The work environment is not safe. Some people have come down with chronic diseases, which they never had any idea, you know. But, you know, as you know, the latent period, they didn't know that it was because of some exposure some years back. So now it is manifesting. And then, you know, we're still struggling with occupational safety and health bill and all that. But it's gaining much grounds because people are getting to understand the implication, especially people, too, that maybe have had experience outside the country. They know what is involved. So they're trying to bring it home. So I believe that the impact is gaining grounds and people are actually getting aware.
When you say people are getting aware, are you talking about the employers of labor now, or the awareness is it more on the employers of labor or the employees themselves who are becoming more aware? Is it the employees are getting more aware that, okay, it's my right to demand certain, you know, kind of safety at work, or is it the employees that are getting to the employers of labor that are getting to understand that I need to provide more safety for my workers?
I feel it's both ways because the employer knows that it has to make the work environment safe for the employees, and then employees, well, with regards to the rights, okay, I don't think we have actually come to that point where we actually get to demand for our rights when it comes to occupational safety and health. Okay, but everybody just has that incline that, okay, the workplace has to be safe and all that. And then, you know, the awareness, we're still patching here and there, but it is just there. People know that, you know, things have to be done, you know, the right way. This is what is expected of the employer. It may not be there 100%, but that awareness is there.
All right, Mr. John Obajimi, tell us something about what you think about the level of awareness of occupational safety and health issues, just beyond the mere rudimentary aspects that every worker, every employer tends to confront.
Thank you very much. I want to believe that the awareness is getting increased. In the past years, people just open companies, run companies without factoring in safety and health of their workers. But due to a lot of events like the one that is we are holding today, the workers health, safety and health day, you know, it's increasing the awareness for people to know, for the employers to know that, one, they will lose more if there are litigations as a result of their staff, you know, being injured. And also on the part of the staff, they know that if you do not do what is expected of you, you do not use the right PPEs, you may lose your life. So as a result, more people are getting involved. And recently somebody spoke to me from Lagos. He wanted to, a company, he wanted to enroll for, I think, Union Bank. And the Union Bank said, oh, we cannot give you a job because you do not have occupational health and safety policy for your organization. He has to speak to me and help them write it. So the awareness is getting increased, especially when we tie it to business, not just with one of those things for the doing it for the sake of doing it. It's increasing. Social media too is equally helping the awareness. Talk of WhatsApp, Facebook, and other platforms. So people are getting more aware that some of the incidents of sickness and diseases in the past, and even accidents, they are preventable. And now people are taking proactive measures to ensure that they are able to bomb. I can tell you, we still have a very long way to go.
Thank you. Before we go to Lagos, to also get a view of Reverend Canon Ighodaro on the level of awareness, let's bring in again Mr. Cletus Achigbe. Of course, you are president of the National Industrial Safety Council of Nigeria. Have you done any assessment of the level of awareness amongst your members and amongst employers, in fact, in the workplace? What is the level of awareness with regard to occupational safety and health issues?
If I have to be very frank here,
please be.
We are we're not where we used to be as a nation, but we are still very far from it. Because how will you be able to say the people are aware? Is if I go outside of this office now and I ask let me do a quick survey of 10 persons. What is this? I tell you a true life story. The hotel where I am.
Don't mention the name, please.
No, I wouldn't. The hotel where I am, I got into the hotel and I saw the way the place looked. And I called on Beacon and then I said, if there's an incident here now, what will you do? They all looked at me. There's a fire extinguisher. Who will operate it? Nobody. Okay, look at your emergency exit. I said, okay, follow me. Let's walk down the emergency exit. We walk down the emergency exit. The exact door you're supposed to exit from is locked. So in the case of an incident, what will happen? All of us will run down there and we will get trapped. So I have to say that we're not yet there. Mostly when you look at the workplaces we have in Nigeria, very many, but I will give kudos to the oil and gas industry and the IOCs. The oil and gas industry has really helped to bring safety to where it is today. But what we are doing now, and some of the things we are working on, both as a nation and as an organization, is to make sure that we begin to advocate, do more of campaigns, letting people know. Then as a nation, we need to deliberately as a nation begin to implement the little laws we have when it comes to safety.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Cletus Achigbe. Now let's go to our Lagos Network Center where we have Reverend Canon Ighodaro. Reverend, let's get your thoughts on this. Do you think that there is that level of awareness? Do you think the people are aware? Though Mr. Cletus has said that we're no longer where we used to be, but the level we are now, of course, we know it's not enough. It can get better. But how do you rate the level with which we're in right now?
We are now is very, very poor. Go to any work environment. the safety standard there is very poor. As he rightly said, it's the oil and gas industry that actually implemented safety devices. Why? Because the chemicals they deal with there or their product there are very flammable. And if safety is not enhanced, then the entire can burn down easily. And we don't have the equivalent fire service to pull them out. Hence, they have done that. But in other sectors, like the construction sector, agricultural sector, other services provided sector, you see, they are not even concerned with health and safety. All they are interested in is production. And they are failed to realize that when workers are injured, then they can no longer produce. They are not worried because there is no insurance scheme for them. So when a worker is injured and is out of service, they replace them easily because of the huge labor unemployment in the country. So this is the situation. But we cannot continue like this. Things must be done properly. And the enforcement, all these regulations are there, either through legislation or through regulatory provisions, policy, what we call a code of conduct, code of practice. They are all there, but they are not implemented. And when you don't implement them, you don't enforce them, then the workers appear casually to work. There are no body protective equipment, no helmet, no other devices, so that they are not taking in gases that are not supposed to be taken in. They are not exposed to low temperature. They are not exposed to high temperature. All these are not implemented in Nigeria. So we are about to start, because in Nigeria today, the national occupation standard is being developed. You will recall on 15th of February, 2018, at the National University Commission headquarters, the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, flagged off the National Skill Qualification Framework. This National Skill Qualification Framework is a standard of performance that is expected of all workers in carrying out their job role, the skill they are to demonstrate, the knowledge and understanding they must have in order to carry out their job role. Now, this national occupation standard is national health and safety standard is a subset of the national occupational standard. If you are to carry out any job role, there are health and safety issues that must be followed. So therefore, in any work environment, there must be health and safety officers that will enhance safety and health regulations. I'll give you an instance. During my training in London, we were in a work environment, and the carpenters and the construction workers needed a power in order to power their portable tools. The wire leading to where these carpenters were on the work path, the work was stopped. The head officer said that cable must be reloaded from the work path so as not to have electric shock. Imagine the entire process shut down, the wire relocated before the job starts again. But in Nigeria, come to any workplace, wires are joined together, there are no sockets, they spark whenever the work is going on. No, the footwear are not there, the protective devices are not there. And people come there, see the work, and say the work is in progress. So this is the situation where we have found ourselves. So there's the need of enforcement, implementation, so that this national skill qualification framework need a legal framework by the National Assembly so that it can be enforced. And right now, it is the approval of the Federal Executive Council that have enabled the minister to flag it off. If not, there is no legislative provision to do this. So therefore, we employ the National Assembly to to enact this legal framework so that this safety, health and safety can be implemented by force of law.
All right, Reverend Canon Ighodaro, thank you very much for the points you have raised. Of course, we'll come back to you. You have touched on some very live or practical examples, work in progress. Good Morning Nigeria is also in progress this morning. We still have that at our Lagos Network studios. Let's bring it again, John Obajimi, who is with us here in the Abuja studios. You listen to, we know that you have another engagement. Why is it so challenging? Why is it so challenging for us at this stage to ramp up our awareness, with awareness and enforcement, we'll come to enforcement in greater detail, of health and safety issues. Is it because, well, awareness means you have to know. Is it because the standards are lax, as Reverend Odara was saying? You find cables and wires all over the place. You go to a construction site and, you know, you find all kinds of nails and all kinds of sharp objects are all over the place. And women are selling and fires are lit all over. What exactly is wrong? I mean, you are a health and safety officer. What is wrong with ramping this level of awareness?
Thank you very much. A lot of things are very, very wrong. Let's start with the people themselves, the priority given to health and safety over maybe money making. For instance, people in the marketplace, you go there, you see them sitting under exposed wire, exposed live, you know, even you 33 kVA, 132 kVA line. You see them selling the even ordinary 220 volts can kill you when the cable drops. But because they want to make the money, they disregard the safety rules that don't stand under exposed cable. Also, the major problem actually is the quirks in the system, because most of the times, because we want to cut costs, people engage those who are not certified to carry out electrical installations. So that is the major problem, because you just bring one quirk to a job that's supposed to take you like maybe 1 million, and somebody says, oh, I can do it for 200,000, and you feel that, oh, you'll be able to save money. So you bring him, the guy use substandard equipment, substandard cable, and he doesn't even know that there are standards. You know, for instance now, where he's supposed to use, let's say 6 mm cable, he feels that we can still use maybe 2.5. And the 2.5 will work, then after like maybe 6 months or 3 months, it catches fire. Because as current passes through, over time it gets weakened, it can no longer take it, then fire will so
let me just interject, Mr. Abajime, because you are in the electricity subsector. There are instances, and I say this with the greatest respect, you see some of your colleagues who work in electricity, they have suffered burns, you know, obviously from, I don't know how you describe that in your subsector. And then in the past, some even NEPA officials, as they were, got electrocuted, you know, while they were, you know, on an electric pole. What, for instance, are the unique safety and health issues in the electricity subsector?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, the major challenge, while such keeps happening, it's still happening actually, though it has been reduced, is the fact that most of the time they want to save time. They want to save cost. You're supposed to wear hand glove, for instance. If you are climbing a pole, you're supposed to wear your helmet, you know, so that when you are up the pole, accidentally, if your hand touches a live wire, you will be saved. It may not save you 100%, but at least it will save you from death. Then also, if you are up, if you wear your helmet, because it is plastic, it is an insulation, it prevents the current to pass into your body. But most of the time, they disregard this law. The laws are there. The laws are there, so they disregard. They just want to quickly do the work within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So why they go up to do it accidentally? They are electrocuted. Also, another thing that causes it is the general principle of the general rule in health and safety is never work on a live equipment. So if you don't work, if you want to work on a circuit, you switch off the circuit, you call the control room or whoever is in that, please, we want to work on this circuit, please shut it down. So but because maybe it is an illegal activity, you don't want the office to know that that you want to take off office job. So you don't tell them. They just go up, climb, then nothing will happen. They say there's no light now. There's no light, and then before you know it, somebody will switch on the light. So it is a broad spectrum of problem. We want to cut costs, we want to save time, we want to make money at the expense of our, and we've forgotten that one life is too important to waste.
All right.
That's right. I mean, I'm wondering, these are examples, from the various sectors, Bajime and Reverend Canon Igodaro, talking about the kind of things that we always take for granted, in the workplace, in the work environment, rather. I'm wondering, why do we have this kind of death wish, almost as it were? If you tell somebody that, look, there's a life cable, you say, let me stay in PG, say, make you cross arm, so nothing will happen.
And sometimes, I begin to wonder if sometimes some of these people, especially in your sector, the electricity sector, if they are being trained and retrained. I say retraining because I can't remember the last time I saw an electricity worker, actually coming to disconnect, like wearing gloves or helmets.
Or wearing boots.
Or wearing boots, and you begin to wonder, have they been taught or have they been retrained? All right, Mr. John Obajimi, thank you very much for coming on the program. We have to let you go. You are the HSC Coordinator, Nigerian Electricity Management Services, NEMSA. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for your thoughts and thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
All right, let's continue our conversation.
Yes, before that's we have some tweets already, Rhoda, that have come in. I think we're going to take those tweets right now and then return to our guests. I know that Mrs. Akan has been chuckling as the various examples were being cited. You give us something with regard to what you have experienced. Say, for instance, in the school, safety environment. I mean, the workplace, you have drivers who are conveying school children. We have had reports of accidents involving some of those vehicles with, unfortunately, loss of lives. Dele Jack Solomon has our first tweet. Every worker should be trained on proper setup and safe use of equipment on the job. Also, employers must train employees in recognizing hazards on the job. A comprehensive suite of modules to manage employee health and improve productivity is also required. It's unfortunate that in Nigeria, these workplaces, or things like this in workplaces, no longer exists, and those existing lack workplace ethics. Our organizations must be proactive in addressing problem areas using powerful tools like compliance management, surveillance, case management, and billing coordination.
And Festus Akimo Iwatu, he says employers must control the risk in their workplace. They must think about what might cause harm to the people and take reasonable steps to prevent the harm. This is doable if they take effective risk assessment seriously. Workers must join trade unions and ensure they are given training in health and safety and provided proactive equipment.
Protective equipment? That's, I believe, yes.
Protective equipment.
All right, Shakiru Rauf, who has this tweet, says, without occupational safety, there can't be safety of lives. In most private companies, profit is valued more than the safety of lives. Government should see to it.
Mang Kanyakutu says it's very unfortunate that we don't take things that bother on our welfare of individuals seriously in this country. The occupational hazards can be drastically reduced if the regulatory agencies are to do their work well. The governments at different levels should do the needful.
Suleiman Babagana has this tweet. Enlightenment of workers on the importance of safety should be a routine duty by employers. Government regulatory agencies should be fully funded for them to perform their duties optimally. Health education curriculum in our schools should be revisited by those concerned to be in line with global best practices. Sanctioning area organizations that do not provide workers with required safety equipment would also be a step in the right direction.
And finally, Dilly Jackson Solomon tweets, he says this is not a problem common to Nigeria alone because despite improvement in occupational safety and health over the years, workers continue to suffer work-related deaths, injuries and illness. Though the Occupational Safety and Health Act makes it mandatory to for employers to provide a workplace free from recognized hazards that cause or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to employees. The growing rate of working-related diseases around the world is very, very alarming. who can explain this.
All right, those are the first set of tweets that we are taking. We take a short break now. When we return, we have our guests here. 3 of them in Lagos, and 2 here with us. So 1 in Lagos and 2 here with us in the Abuja studios now.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Caring for the patients of typhoid and diarrhea is our responsibility. And these illnesses are often spread due to eating with unclean hands. So I recommend Dettol, as it protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why I want to be Dettol sure. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
All right, welcome back. Good morning, Nigeria, still in progress this morning. And of course, we have all of our guests still here in the studio. We're looking at occupational hazards and safety at workplace. Very, very important, Kingsley. And of course, our guest that just left was actually, giving us an insight into the electricity, subsector, and of course the hazards that are inherent there. But then let's get our guest here in the studio to also speak to the end. That's Mrs. Basi Akan. Just give us an example of what you experience, especially in schools. Hazards, in schools you have,
and what occupational safety measures ought ordinarily be observed?
Okay. The school safety project is actually a project that we hope to launch today, much later in the day. We're just birthing it via the NISCN. Now, the idea, like we're talking about safety, we want to see a situation or have a situation where we groom our young ones. We want them to grow with that safety consciousness. Now, I'll take a simple example. Like Mr. John was saying, talking about the people themselves. Individuals, or over here, we have a very poor perception of risk. So, we always say, nothing will happen. God did. This one no dey happen. That is in our, Nigerian or African parlance, okay? But the issue remains that a hazard is anything that has the potential to cause harm. So anything can be anything. You are using that biro, the next minute, it can cause harm. We've had situations where children are playing with toys. They swallow toys, they like picking things with their mouth, or even while having a pencil, they injure their colleagues, maybe on the eye or somewhere, okay? So a simple thing like zebra crossing. I have, there's a, somebody brought it up recently. Said, have you noticed that people don't stop, zebra crossings don't exist? Even when they are there, nothing happens. So you are standing there, and then nobody, the drivers don't even have an idea that, you're supposed to stop, or even when they were coming from afar and you were already on the zebra crossing, they are still going past, okay? So we have school junctions, we have signposts, schools, children are crossing, but nothing happens. Unless maybe you are just, maybe I have children, or these children are, there are so many or something, you now see somebody flagging for the next person, so that the kids can cross. But all the signs and everything are there. Okay, so the individuals don't even have that idea, or even if it is there, they just feel, they let them wait, okay? I remember when growing up, we used to have this saying, when you want to cross the road, look left, look right, and look left again. But you don't see all those, okay? Even in Port Harcourt where I stay, I used to say people want to use their hand and stop the vehicle rather than waiting. In fact, because of the, people not giving any regard to zebra crossings and all that, I always stick to something an uncle of mine said: there will always be a stop in traffic. So I can be standing if I want to cross the road, and people are like, Madam, cross now. I'm like, the road won't go away. I need the road to be safe for me, okay? That's because I can perceive the hazard. So I do what we call a risk assessment. I try to identify the hazard and then put in place control measures that will enable me to cross the road safely. So we want to bring that into our younger ones, inculcate that culture where they grow up to know, that mommy is cooking in the kitchen. I don't have to be close to, okay? The cylinder shouldn't be inside the kitchen. It should be this way. I have to turn off the valve and stuff like as simple as frying. We've had fire incidents from frying plantain. Very common, okay? So those are the kind.
Okay, is it when you fry that the plantain becomes dodo? I thought it was fried.
I thought the dodo was the plantain.
Kingsley, funny enough, just last week I had a practical experience of a couple who were just standing at the zebra crossing here in Abuja. And, the vehicle almost knocked them. But later we actually got to find out that, they were new in the country. So they felt like, okay, when you have a zebra crossing, they just stood on the zebra crossing and was waiting for...
And then you find motorists who are hooting and then others, of course, typical of Nigerians, they'll be yelling. But let's move on again. Let's look at the health, one area, which is health. And this is, you find it in factories, you find it in offices, and indeed virtually everywhere that is a workplace in Nigeria, particularly public places. Why, for instance, is it such a big deal for us to have clean conveniences, just sanitation in the workplace? When you go to some restaurants in advanced countries, there is even a notice on the door to a convenience that employees must wash their hands when leaving the convenience. But in offices, it's usually the big man's toilet that is usually locked and it is clean. Every other place is a challenge. Why is this so?
Well, I think it is so because, like we've always said, is a culture. It's like a part of us here in this country. Because what you just said, I was just smiling because in the ministry, we were talking that day during our committee meeting. The whole place is smelling. You go to the toilet. Some of them you can't even stand there. It's so messed up that you don't even understand what is going on here. I ask myself, is it animals that live here? Because you can't be in such a place. So I think first thing is we have refused to tell ourselves the truth. There are some basic truths that we call it common sense. Common sense should tell you that the toilet should be clean. So common sense should tell you that this thing is hazardous to your life. I give you a true life example. I had a need to spray my wife's car sometime, and the guy who was the spray painter, he was spraying the car, and I asked him, "Guy, what's happening? You're spraying this thing. You're not wearing a nose mask. You're not wearing a protective anything to protect your." He said, "Nothing there happen. Now today the thing there." So, and I told him, just pick up this container. Read what the manufacturer has said. This is what will happen to you if you don't do this. So we need to, as a nation, I think there should be a deliberate shift to begin to make these things laws, punishable. Well, we're expecting that the Occupational Safety and Health Bill, which was on Monday, came up at the National Assembly, Senate hearing, public hearing. We are hoping and praying it comes out as quick as it can. It will help the nation greatly to prevent and to as long as it's reasonably practicable, see that these things will begin to correct them.
All right, thank you very much, Akigbe. Let's return to Reverend Canon Ihodaro in Lagos. We're still on health. Earlier, of course, when you were talking, you said, of course, safety relates to the worker, relates to the environment, tools, and equipment. Workers must also have a healthy environment, where they can work. I'm talking about conveniences. If you were to go to most construction sites, I doubt if you will have mobile restrooms or mobile toilets. At some point, the workers will, hundreds of them or tens of them would disappear. And what you find is open conveniences for them. And then you go to otherwise well-established offices, and it's a big challenge, for you to get a clean convenience. Why is it that we haven't, again, ramped up this to ensure that we have clean conveniences with the positive implications that will have on the worker?
Thank you very much. You see, as I've said earlier, every job role has a procedure. This national occupation standard, if properly followed, all these things we are talking about will not occur. You see, like the electricity man that left, if you are climbing an electric pole, there are work processes for it in the national occupation standard. If you are working on any voltage, there are insulators. There are insulation breakdown. You know when insulation will break down. There are safety belt you need to wear. The kind of ladder you have to use. All those things are there in the national occupation standard. And this national occupation standard are developed by the various skills councils, sector skill councils. Engineering develop their own, construction develop their own, electrical develop their own, thermal, radioactivity, and all. And two, these safety devices that is in place, you will know when it is going to break down because there is monitoring. As you monitor it, if there is going to be a breakdown, the operation is shut down and remedy is made. The environment is protected, life is protected, equipment is protected. These are the issues. This national occupation standard is very important. And in Nigeria today, schools are being open, as Madam was saying about school. Do you know that when you are taking out students, pupils for play, that a teacher is leading a group of pupils in her class, leading them out for a playground outside the classroom? There are procedures for doing it. When you are leading a student for excursion, taking them in a bus, there are procedures for doing it. The driver himself also needs the occupation standard for his own driving. The teacher also needs them. Today now we have developed national occupation standard for care, child care. Those in KG, creche, up to primary 6 are to come for training based on this standard. And if you look at this standard, they are not academic standard. I have a degree in child care. I have a degree in early childhood. Those are academics. The work you are to do in the classroom, practical work, has been spelled out in the national occupation standard. If this national occupation standard is followed, every other thing are included in it. Health and safety, legislation, policy, code that you must follow. So nobody will tell you that when you go to a toilet, you are to flush. The employer will know that the water must be flowing continuously. There must be disinfectant. Isaiah and other, they must be there that you are going to use. All these are necessary. Two, when you have an event planning, for instance, a hall, when members come to that hall, you don't provide seat and say, let them sit down. There are occupational standards for it. You must tell them where the convenience is. You must tell them where their exit is. You must tell them where their muster point. In case of fire or accident, the way they are to move out so that no injury will be ordered. That one will be discussed for about 30 minutes to all participants before they sit down. But in Nigeria, when you have an event, everybody takes their seat and sit down. Nobody knows where the toilet is. Nobody knows where the safety is, the muster point, they don't know. So therefore, they go and ease themselves anywhere they find. That is why you are seeing that. In the construction sector, as you have said, there are no conveniences. People go into the bush, people dig ground and do whatever they want to do there and cover it all. Some leave it on the surface and thereby degrade the environment. And diseases come in to affect the workers. So if a national occupation standard is followed for every construction, masonry, bricklaying, concreting, carpentry, joinery, they are all there. electrical, welding and fabrication. The occupational standards are there for up to level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So these are the people carrying out this job. When this thing is properly followed, all these things we are talking will come to an end. For instance, we are talking of a traffic light, and we are talking of pedestrian crossing. When you go to such a place, there are occupational standards for crossing the road. If they are properly followed, accident will not occur. The driver that is coming has his own occupational standard of driving. He knows what we call safe motoring that is embedded in his training. So when he gets to pedestrian crossing, nobody tells him to slow down. This is in the implementation. So what we want now is a legislation to enforce the National Skill Qualification Framework. When it is being enforced, all these things we are discussing will come to an end, because everybody will know his job role, the safety. You talk of hazard. There are many types of hazard. You have energy bottled hazard. You have non-energy bottled hazard. Those non-energy bottled hazard are very common in the construction site. Something hanging, a piercing, nails on the ground. All these are to be taken care of. Even in the construction site, there's supposed to be a health officer, and there's supposed to be a safety box whereby a worker can be treated emergency before rushing to the hospital where they are fatality or a serious injury. But you go to the construction, there's nothing like that. All what they have is just that do your work and you go. When there's injury, you cannot be employed tomorrow. Another person will replace you. So we cannot continue like this. A time will come, you will see that every of our side will be a disaster zone. We don't need it to continue. Particularly, for instance, in the classroom. When people are using tools, toys to play, they put in their mouth. How do you disinfect it? If not, you have a continuous infection going on among pupils. So the teacher that is to handle this class have been trained in his national occupation standard. He knows how to handle these pupils so that there is no infection. Students play mouth organ, and then you give it to another pupil to play. Then there is an infection. You are taking a student from the spot of to the field where they are going to have sports. They are procedure. The teacher don't just stay in front and start going and the pupils follow. No, they are intermittent break to ensure that the students, they come down safely and then they participate in the sports activity, whether indoor or outdoor, and they are returned back to their classroom safe and healthy. These are all there in the Child Care National Occupation Standard at various levels. Those to handle cash may be in level 1. Those to handle the KG, they are in level 2. And those to handle the primary 1 to 3, they are in level 3. And those to handle primary 5 to 6, they are in level 4. The other one up to the secondary school, which we have level 5, level 6. These are out there, but we are not implementing them. Some schools does not even know there's a national occupation standard for teaching. For teachers, they don't even know. So the idea, we want to thank you for this program, so that awareness drive should be increased and the legislative framework should be produced by the National Assembly so that our workplace will be safe for us to work and then live.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Canon Ighodaro. Very, very important points that you have raised on our conversation. And that's why we're here always on Good Morning Nigeria, also to also raise the level of awareness, especially issues concerning us as Nigerians and, of course, happenings in the society. But now let's first of all take our tweets and we'll get back to our guest. Our viewers are also reacting. They're sending in their comments and their thoughts via our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. The first one is from Umar Sahid. He said, safety and health of a worker is not only significant to that person alone, but to the efficiency of the firm and other colleagues that the person interacts with.
And we have this from Alawaye Mubarak. It says, my suggestions on how to reduce and prevent occupational hazards are: 1, identify the hazard by carrying out a workplace risk assessment. 2, determine how employees might be at risk. 3, evaluate the risks. And 4, record and review hazards at least annually or earlier if something changes.
Kabiru Lere tweets, says workers should be properly educated on safety guidelines and how to protect themselves in workplaces, and also there should be strict enforcement of health and safety regulation in all workplaces for the prevention of accidents, injuries and diseases.
Joseph Tayo tweets, the strong desire to get employment in Nigeria has turned Nigerian workers into slaves of their taskmasters, in brackets, employers. Now, this is pathetic. I suggest we call for a national conference on safety at work with all stakeholders participating.
Umar Ben tweets, it says, a happy worker is a motivated worker. Ergonomic design of a workplace should be given considerations by employers of labor. In some instances in Nigeria, ergonomics is not given consideration in designing a workplace. Productivity is a product of motivation.
And Ronke Eleyinjuege has this tweet: health and safety measures in workplaces are ignored or toned down because in Nigeria we cut corners and place no value on human lives.
And Fulham finally tweets, says, it's painful that companies do not follow these advices. Please, what authority can one call when safety is not followed in his company? A lot of us are at risk right now. Mr. Cletus, I'd like you to speak to some of the questions that have been asked now. Someone just asked, now that's Fulham. It says, if you know, safety guidelines are not being complied with in my office, who should I call? Who should I be speaking to?
Okay. In Nigeria today, it is in the exclusive list that the Federal Ministry of Labour, through the OSH department, which is Occupational Safety and Health Department, is the only one you should report to. But where I have a challenge with that is the employee does not have a protection. Your reporting can make you lose your job. So we are seriously gunning for the nation to have a legislation that says an employee can report on safe condition and unsafe acts in his workplace, and he will still be protected. He will still have his job. But today, I fear for them, because if they do that, they may lose their job because there's no protection for them. I am one of those who is also seriously advocating for, like you have in some other part of the world, where you have safety officers. Let them be like the government police, who report to the government what is happening when it pertains to occupational safety and health in their establishment, where you are the one that mediates between your company and the government. You tell your company, by law, this is what we are not supposed to do. If we do this, this is what is going to happen to us. Oh, government, this is what they are not doing right. Please come and make sure it is done. In US, for example, they have an agency who is specifically given that job, and theirs is called OSHA. While in UK, theirs is called HSC. So we are, like in Nigeria now, we are seriously praying that Occupational Safety and Health Department of Federal Ministry of Labour be turned to an agency where they will strictly be responsible for this. You don't have to report to anybody. You do your job, get as many as... One of the challenges we have in the nation is that we don't have enough manpower for inspection of the workplaces. Because, for example, I've seen where there has been incidents in the workplaces, and these incidents are reported, but because of the bureaucracy in reporting, nothing is done. An inspector in Port Harcourt, for example, inspects a company and he sees that the hazard there is a time bomb. And he says this company is to be shut down, and you report to the head, and for 1 year plus, nothing is done. The hazard is still there. People are moving on. There have been so many cases of such. There's a case of a young man in Lagos State. I was called in January. They were asking me, what can they do? What was this problem? One of these Chinese companies where he works, they do multi-metal business. And there was I think the land they were trying to load their furnace, and some of the metals dropped, and there was a splash of molten metal. I can show you his picture. Okay, my phone is not here. You'll see his face. It's burnt. His face is no more his face. And you went there, dumped him in the hospital. Nothing was done. You tried taking care of him, and when you discovered that the thing was becoming expensive on you, you left him there. The guy started crying out, and So, but as I'm talking to you now, the ministry has tried to do what they can. In my office in Lagos, they came for a meeting with the ministry, and I got back to them, what's the situation? And they said they were waiting for a report. And ministry said, okay, go back with the company, said, go back, take him back to the hospital, do a plastic surgery on him, and let's see how we take off from there, absorb him back. But as I'm talking to you, the young man is still calling me every day saying they're still where they are.
You're talking now about liability for matters arising from occupational safety and health. What do we know? Let's bring in Basi Akan here. In terms of, this, I know that this is a legal terrain. To what extent is an employer ordinarily to take care of an employee, and what should also be the employee's own responsibility, either in averting or when it has occurred, how to also handle this?
First and foremost, with regards to health and safety, we always talk about employers' responsibility, we talk about the workers' responsibility, and the workers' rights. Now, at the point of starting your business, you must have carried out, you must have, you know how your business is going, and then the hazards you envisage will definitely come with the business. So you have to, inform your workers about the hazards in the workplace, and then the control measures that you have actually put in place to ensure that harm does not come to the worker. Now, peradventure, we say accidents are inevitable. Now, if you as an employer, you know your responsibility when it comes to your employee, and you know all the downsides, you have a responsibility to ensure that this employee remains safe at work. But if an accident occurs and is as a result of the employee's negligence, okay, like you said, legal, I know that if it's as a result of the employee's negligence, then they may not really have a case. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you should outrightly, because of course there's going to be investigation, because initially maybe your first aid treatment you give, the medical cost and things like that. So that's where, if the laws were there, it now comes in when you actually sit on the table and then you try to, investigate, so you know who is, actually at fault. But what normally happens, like what I know normally happens once anything just happens, especially when the cost now becomes so much, the implication is so much on the employer, they tend to just, hands off. The employee is solely on his own. Most times care is not really taken to investigate. You hear things like, is he our staff? He's a contract staff. We start hearing all sort of shady talks just, to pass on blame and make sure that these things, do not infringe on, the employer having to spend money and all that. But we know, like we're talking about HSE in the UK and all that, they actually take time to investigate. So you actually see employers going to court. You actually see employers being convicted, prosecuted and all that, or they have an option of fines, which are very heavy on them. So because they know these implications, the law works there. So they make sure that they do not, have any of this on their hands. So that investigation comes in, and if, like I said, the laws are there, you really know who to hold for what. All right,
Mrs. Basi Akpan, thank you very much. Let's get the closing thoughts of Reverend Canon and Igodaro in Lagos. I'd like you to speak to the issue that Mr. Cletus just raised, and that's the issue of protection for workers. And Kingsley also asked the question, what should be the role of the employer and, of course, the employee in, of course, health and safety in the workplace?
Thank you very much. I listened to both two of them, and I say that in Nigeria, he is correct, but there is nobody to report to. You are just on your own. As you say, if you report to your employer, it will sack you the next day, and nothing will happen. Two, as she was saying in other claim, our legal system, the present legal system Nigeria is operating, all of us know it is time-consuming, it is costly, and then it's not effective. So therefore, a case is in court, an issue raised in court, it makes an appeal to the court of appeal. And before that is determined, you come back again to the initial court to continue. It takes 12 or 13 years. What will a man be doing that? How do you sustain such a litigation when you are just an employee? So therefore, the legal system is not in favor of us. So we must find other means of looking at it. And that other means is training. We must be training for our workers. When these workers are being trained, then they begin to know their left from their right. I'll give you an instance. You are traveling out of the city. You go to a bus terminal. You pay, and then you sit on the bus. All these are what we call the ingredients of a valid contract are completed. And then you have your ticket. You are going. Accident happened on the highway. What happened? The transport company quickly go there and clean the name of his transport coming from the bus. They always have paint with them. Once the next one gets there, bring out his paint and begin to clean the name of the bus from there. From there, they drag the bus away. The people go and bury their dead. So nothing is happening. But in other climes, when I have a valid contract with you and you are to take me to a place for safety and there's an accident on the highway, you must hold that company liable. So when that one is being done, then the company will have to hold its drivers liable. The drivers have to be trained, they have to be equipped, and they don't have to work for many hours. You drive from Lagos to Kano, the next day you are on your way back. That kind of thing should not happen. Because if there are fatalities, the company will be held liable. So because of that, the employer or the owner of the companies, the supervisor, we have what we call a care diligence to make sure that all these health and safety devices are in place to forestall accident. That is one of them. Then you also come to products. People don't care about their products. Once they make product, they send it to the market. People take them and they are falling sick every day. Nobody cares. But in America, there's what we call occupational hazard and non-occupational hazard. What does that mean? Those who make this product, who work in the factory, they have occupational hazard. Those who are going to use this product, they are non-occupational hazard. So you must take care of these two. But in Nigeria, nothing is happening at all. You just do things and you get away with it because, one, nobody to report to. The legal services is very costly, time-consuming, slow, ineffective. So all these things have come together. So what is the way forward now? The way forward is training. The National Board for Technical Education, the National Business and Technical Examination Board, and other stakeholders have put occupational standard in place. Make sure you send your workers for training. And when there is training, there will be improvement. The time for product will be, product cost will be reduced. The workers will be effective. They will be efficient. They will be adaptable. Mobility of labor will be enhanced. All these are the benefits of using the National Occupation Standard. So in that, all the health and safety issues are there. The owner of the company is trained as a supervisor. He knows that supervision is very important. At management level, even at administrative level, they are provided for in the National Occupation Standard. So everybody knows where he's supposed to be at any time. And then you begin to see the flow of our work, the flow of our production processes, the cost will go down, the time will go down, the workers will be happy, and then you begin to have a social well-being of workers. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Canon Anthony Ighodaro. You joined us, Timothy Ighodaro. Thank you for joining us from our Lagos Network Center. You are a Qualification, Quality Assurance, Vocational Assessor and International Quality Assurance Manager. That's IQAM, Deputy Director, Examination Development, and Head of Unit of the National Skills Qualification Framework. We thank you for your thoughts and time on the program this morning.
Very much.
All right. I mean, that's virtually the much that we can take. Just 1 or 2 points. I was just wondering, Mr. Akigbe, you recall, and Mrs. Bassi Akan, you recall that perhaps up to about a decade ago or so on international flights, baggage allowance, for instance, one piece of baggage could be 32 kilograms. It was scaled down to 23 kilograms. They said some of the baggage handlers were having problems with their spine and waist, you know, and frame. That's part of the occupational health and health issues that we're talking about. But in offices, let's say where you have non-hazardous materials, it would appear that there is still very lax enforcement of appropriate standards, what to do, how to do it, whether it is the lighting. Somebody was talking about ergonomics, the kind of chairs that you sit on, for instance, you know, for how long, and so on and so forth. But that's too much, of course, that we can take. But let's get the closing thoughts of Ahigwe. You talked about the bill that is coming up in the National Assembly.
The bill, like I said, is going to be the icebreaker for Nigeria. Is going to be setting up an agency that will man the safety and health for the nation. But before, as we're waiting for that, we know how long it takes for these things to, because it's been there for so many years now. There was a particular Senate that should have given birth to it, but the next one came and they started afresh again. So, well, we are hoping that will come to limelight very soon, because it is going to really help the nation. But while we wait for that, we should be able to have little legislations which does not need to come to the National Assembly. For example, a legislation for lifting, like we were talking about the people that carry baggages. The simple problem they have is proper lifting techniques. You don't lift something that is more than you. So these are things that they are there. But I want to plead with us.
Yeah, but a piece of legislation must go through the House of Assembly of a state.
No, it's not all.
Or, no, that's a piece of legislation. We're talking about subsidiary legislation. Piece of legislation, National Assembly or State House of Assembly. But okay. Continue.
We have, you know, when you have, for example, you have the Factories Act. There are little legislation that give birth to the factory, that gives credence to the Factories Act. Those ones don't have to go to National Assembly. So those type, like in the, we have today. If you come to the program today, we're going to be unveiling some of them. The ministry will be unveiling 3 that has come out. So I want to plead with us as a nation. Let's implement the one we have, and let's make sure we look out for the informal sectors, the house helps, those that the painters, the traders. Let's look out for them and make sure we do something about them.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Cletus Ahigbe, President, National Industrial Safety Council of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program. And it's on that note also want to thank Mrs. Basi Akan, School Safety Nigeria Coordinator. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
All right, time now for us to take our complimentary segments, and the first one is sports. Let's join our sports desk for developments in the world of sports.
Defending champions of the Nigerian Professional Football League, Plateau United, moved into the top 10 of the MPFL table following a 2-0 win against Kwara United in the rescheduled March Day 13 encounter at the new Jos Stadium on Thursday. Tosin Omoyele pounced on a through ball in the 28th minute to give the home side the lead, and Rafael Ayango make the point save, converting from the spot 5 minutes from time. In the other rescheduled match day 13 encounter, Enugu Rangers were held to a goalless by MFM LC at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, Enugu. The Jos Club have now moved from 11 to 8 spots in the MPFL standings following the win over Kwara United, as the Lorin-based club dropped from 19th to the last position.
All right, thank you very much there for the sports stories. Let's go now to the foreign scene, where the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is visiting South Korea for talks, and also Mike Pompeo has been sworn in as the new Secretary of State of the U.S. Oyemi Ajayi has details of the stories.
History can be said to have been made in Korea as Kim Jong-un becomes the first North Korean leader to set his foot on South Korea by crossing the military line that has divided the peninsula since the end of the Korean War in 1953. Hoping for a frank discussion, South Korean leader Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un of North Korea shook hands at the border. It is expected that both leaders will discuss a peace treaty and nuclear weapons. Much of what the summit will focus on has been agreed in advance, but many analysts remain deeply skeptical about North Korea's apparent enthusiasm for engagement. Now to the United States. Mike Pompeo, that is the former CIA chief, has been made the new Secretary of State of the United States. He took over as America's top diplomat after being confirmed by the Senate and sworn in across the street minutes later. He was confirmed on a 57-42 vote, one of the slimmest margins for the job in recent history. After being sworn in, he dashed off to Europe in an energetic start, befitting the high-stakes issues awaiting him from Iran to North Korea. He was sworn in at the Supreme Court by Justice Samuel Alito, a fellow Italian-American, who said he was proud to officiate for the occasion.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi. Now, his style of art is the hallmark of artistic creativity, which some describe as the freedom of expression. Bankole Danladi Bako is a viewer's delight any day. Sarafina Okon is our reporter who was at the Silhouettes of Record Art exhibition, where she captured the amazing works of Bako.
With rapt attention, in a relaxed atmosphere, art enthusiasts paid attention to each detail of this naturalistic artist as he explains the style and aesthetic messages. The program Silhouettes of Records tells the African story from clusters of the Yoruba-talking drums believed to have originated from South Africa to turning of waste papers to art pieces such as the crucifix and the Last Supper, thereby engaging in a cultural revival.
With art, there is great potential in tourism.
The beauty of this exhibition lies in its visual creativity as the artist put forward his manipulative skills in ensuring his works are not complex, despite his unconventional techniques of multiple dimensional concepts or flips.
When you have a genius in a society, that's enough to create any means or support that the mankind within that area need.
To diversify Nigerian economy through arts is something that we have to consciously project so that the world can see what we have and appreciate it.
All right, let's go on now to the Meteorological Agency to check out the weather prospects for the rest of today.
Welcome to the weather forecast from Nigerian Meteorological Agency. There are prospects of weather activities across the north and parts of the central states in the morning. A few rains and some thundery activities are likely across parts of Taraba, Gombe, Bauchi Plateau, Nasarawa, Kaduna, the Federal Capital Territory, Niger, Zamfara, and some parts of Kebbi and Kwara states. Some of these activities may come very early. We expect out build-up in other areas and thunderstorms over the southeast coast later in the day. There are chances of isolated thunderstorms over the high grounds of the central states and inland areas later in the evening hours and some parts of the northeastern flank of the country. We'll bring you updates as this weather evolves. I leave you with the temperature forecast.
And that's it on Good Morning Nigeria today. We'll be back again Monday morning, 7 a.m. God willing. I'm Rhoda Anonam. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Kingsley Osadova. I join Rhoda in thanking you. Enjoy your day and, of course, also have a lovely weekend.